Hello, good afternoon, and welcome to this week's Marketing Gem. This week we are talking about productivity and how to improve it. Everyone talks about making productivity for setting New Year resolutions. They may be from losing weight or drinking less or aiming to resolve to make some sort of other fresh start. And on the work side, we often talk about finishing off projects that we started last year, working on new and exciting things, trying to reach new targets, new business targets, so, not to work so many hours and to get our work-life balance back in some sort of proportion, and just to become more effective or productive. We make these resolutions in an environment where each year new and innovative innovations increase expectations and demands to respond to requests placed on SMEs become shorter and shorter. Everything is needed yesterday. The way we work has also changed dramatically. In the last few years, with more collaborative projects, we require much more coordination with others, more conference calls, more mobile calls, more emails and meetings. Just a few of the distractions which prevent us from working efficiently. So how do we overcome these distractions and become more productive? A panel of experts might not be able to help you lose weight or drink less, but they do have some great ideas on how we can all be more productive. So to discuss how we can help restore your work-life balance into something like some sort of order, I am joined by four experts this week, and the first expert is Jonathan Darby. Happy New Year, Jonathan. Yep. Jonathan has a wealth of marketing and media planning experience, whilst working for some of the world's biggest advertising agencies, and during which time he's advised both large and multinational companies and small-sized companies on how to achieve their strategic aims, which is another way of setting what's my New Year's resolution. Welcome, Jonathan.
Thank you, and I hope everyone finds it useful. I mean, I think we have to remember our purpose here with the Marketing Gem is that we are championing the best practice in marketing. To do that, you need to give yourself a bit of time, and the least we can do is say, right, if you're going to put more time into marketing, we're going to have to all be more disciplined about how we use our days. And this is the least we can put back into the mix. So I hope everyone enjoys it.
Okay, that's great. And we also have Laurie Bernard with us again. Laurie runs the Business Service Partnership, a consultancy based in Watford. Laurie has a wealth of marketing and business consulting advice for SMEs in the Hertfordshire and North West London area. Happy New Year, Laurie.
Happy New Year, Diane, and all the team, and everybody watching in today.
Okay, and we've also got Jeremy Silverstone of Purple Marketing again with us, and Jem has been advising companies in the SME sector for quite a few years now, as well as on how to improve their communications and also their how to get the most from their marketing budgets and how to become more productive with their marketing and everything. So hi Jem, and welcome to the show, and a Happy New Year.
And a Happy New Year to you and everybody else, and a very productive one too.
Okay, and finally, we're joined by Catherine. Now, Catherine runs CB Graphics, a design consultancy based in Watford, with many repeat customers and regularly briefed by SMEs and others. But one of the things that Catherine does is actually she's very prolific on social media, and we often hear reports about social media being a huge effort to get very little in return. But I know that Catherine has actually managed to turn that on its head, and for very little effort has managed to get quite good returns from it. So hopefully she'll share those secrets with us today. Happy New Year, Catherine, and welcome.
Hello there. Hi, Diane. Hi, team. Yes, Happy New Year to everybody. Everybody had a good Christmas break. Yeah, time to have a fresh look at how we operate, how we do things, and really sort of try to embrace some of the technology that's out there. A lot of it is free. So, yeah, this is going to be a lively discussion about how to embrace some of that in the coming year.
Okay, well, I'm sure there'll be lots of great tips from everyone involved today. There's bags of experience there about what to do and what not to do to improve productivity. So, Laurie, why don't you start us off?
Okay, so I think one of the things that you've got to do at the beginning of the year is think where you want to be at the end of the year, Because if you don't know where you want to go, how can you plot your journey to get there? So it's the old chestnut of setting some goals, some objectives, try to visualize them and write them down, and then actually think, what have you got to do to achieve those goals and objectives? So I think that's where I would start off. You know, if you want to make £100,000 worth of profit, visualize £100,000, maybe get a picture of it, stick it on a notice board above your desk, and remember that's why you're getting up every morning, to actually achieve that objective.
Okay. Jen, your thoughts, your opening thoughts on how to improve productivity?
Well, this year I'm going to be positive in my efforts to say no. I'm going to be saying no to lots more people this year and lots more things. And that's my positive message to everybody. Just say no.
Okay, that does sound slightly counterintuitive.
It's about recognizing that being busy is not clever. You know, we can all be busy doing nothing. And going back to what Laurie was saying, you know, we've actually got to focus on the positive things and the things that are going to be generate the kind of returns that we want.
Okay. And Jonathan, what are you doing this year to be more productive?
Good question. Well, I think there are certain things that everyone should try and be more frequently. One is manage everything proactively rather than reactively. So don't be a passenger. Get on with it. If you've got projects, get them going, get them started. Put in measurements. So it's one thing to have objectives. Make sure they're smart. Make sure that you can measure them. Give yourself a timeline to work to. By all means, say no, but don't be frightened of offering help where it may be of benefit to you because it's a new learning experience. And don't be afraid of asking for help. And, you know, if you're going to go off and do a brainstorming, don't just try and do it by yourself. Take some people who might have rounded experience that will help you think about it differently. So that would be a starting point.
Okay. Catherine, as I alluded, you've had some great success with social media, and I know that speaking to you on a fairly regular basis, that you seem to crack the nut of, you know, the amount of in that a lot of people complain that with social media it takes an awful lot of effort and everything, and as I said in the intro, you seem to have reduced that down to a small amount of time per day, and yet still produce a vast amount of social media output as part of your marketing effort. Perhaps you could enlighten us all.
Yeah, it is a bit of a mystery sometimes, actually, how these things work. Yeah, I did find that, particularly towards the middle part, towards the end of last year, excuse me, I was spending a lot of time on social and business media. And I ended up thinking, well, hold on a second, if I'm spending all this time on social media, is it actually generating business? Because if it was, I wouldn't be spending all that time on social media. So yes, I mean, with the advent of things like Hootsuite, I've managed to get it down to about an hour in the morning to do all my posts, get information out there, as well as actually getting some information and some inspiration and motivation from other things that are out there as well. I mean, I'll go into what I actually use on social media perhaps a little bit later on, but I would say certainly in terms of having a productive day, I start, first of all, the very first thing I do is a to-do list. And that's not a to-do list just of business-related things. That's a to-do list generally for the day, because I think that's important in terms of getting that work-life balance together. If you separate business completely from your working day, especially if you're a self-employed sole trader working at home like I do, business and work is very much integral. So I make a to-do list of business-related stuff, home, other stuff, and all the rest of it. So it's all sort of planned into the day, and you can see how the day's working. It's good to have an overall list as well for the week, so you can see how some things might sort of spill over into the next day and how the week's going to pan out. But certainly in terms of the social media, my Twitter, my Facebook, my Google Plus, and anything else that I do, all tends to get bundled into Hootsuite. So one post can go a long way.
Yeah. Now, Laurie, at the beginning in your introductory comments, you made a comment about, if you want to set £100,000 profit or something like that. But it's not just profit that you need to be able to measure, is it? You need to be able to measure all sorts of other things, such as if the number of hours worked, that sort of thing as well, isn't it?
Yeah, I think you're right. And I think it was Jonathan who said it's really about working maybe smarter and not harder. And it's also, as Jeremy was saying, knowing when to say no. So you sometimes can work smarter and harder by saying no if something's not really going to meet your objectives during that year. So it may be that you say, look, I'm not going to work weekends. I just want to work an 8-hour day, 5 days a week. What do I need to get rid of to ensure that I achieve that objective? And often, it's Pareto's rule, the 80-20 rule. Your top 20% of your clients and activities generate 80% of your profits. And it's knowing where they are and knowing when to say no, and perhaps discarding some of those clients who cost you money and not make you money at the end of the day.
Yeah. Now, Jem, you brought up the subject of saying no at the very beginning.
No, I didn't.
Why is that, and how does that improve your productivity?
Well, as Laura's just eloquently stated, it's about saying no to the things that aren't going to be productive. So it's not a question of saying no to everybody all the time, but it's a question of being selective and making sure that the things that you're saying yes to are those things that you can accommodate within the targets that you've set yourself in terms of work-life balance.
So could that be just in terms of you say no because you can see it's going to take you into a weekend and you've committed to something, or is it a case of...
Yeah, I think there's two very practical things we can do.
Yeah, or is it just a case of some clients aren't worth the trouble?
Well, there's no doubt some clients aren't worth the trouble. On the other hand, a lot of clients who may not themselves be profitable might be stepping stones to other clients who might be very profitable. So I do think we have to treat each case on its merits, and we have to assess ourselves whether we believe that client represents good value to us. But I think there are some simple things that we can do, and one of them is managing clients' expectations or prospects' expectations. So if somebody asks you to deliver a logo tomorrow or to deliver a strategy this afternoon, then I think it actually reflects better on you to be able to say, no, that's not a realistic time scale. So let's have a look maybe early next week to deliver that. And that will be a more effective way of doing it. Clearly, there are some jobs that need to be delivered quickly, and we'll try to accommodate those wherever we can. But it's a lot of what we do is educating our clients and our prospects to understand what is realistic, and that takes the pressure off us. The other thing we can do is maybe just unsubscribe. Spend 20 minutes going through all those emails that clog up your email system and unsubscribe from those. And reduce the amount of time that you need to spend on trawling through your emails, deleting stuff.
Yeah. And that's a good point, isn't it?
Sorry, I was just going to say about the customer expectation. I think things changed over the years. Certainly when I was really, really busy, about 10 years ago or so, when things were so busy, customer expectation was very different to how it's been over the last 4 or 5 years or so. When things are really, really busy, people expect to wait a bit longer. But I think when we've had this slump, economic crisis and all the rest of it, work has not been quite so prolific, so people have been used to getting their jobs a little bit sooner, and I think that's something that needs to be managed a little bit as well. If you are getting busier and there's more work coming in, just be honest with customers and say, look, I know I could normally do this in a couple of days. Give me a week, and you'll get your job. So I think that's sort of changed over the years a little bit.
I mean, Jonathan, working more productively doesn't necessarily mean spending longer hours at work, does it?
No, I have a bit of a, I suppose, it's a marketing story from a lady who I know who's a bookkeeper, who about 5 years ago came to me and said, I've got no time for myself, I've got too many clients, and I'm going to retire in 5 years' time, and what am I going to do about it? And the simple solution was, I said, put your prices up by 20% in January, tell them up front, and anyway, she put her prices up by 20%. Not one client fell out, so she got a fairly hefty pay rise that year. She then went on and did that repeatedly, 3 years on the trot. On the 5th year, she has now lost a day's worth of work a week, but she's doubled her income, and she's in a very comfortable position to retire. But so it's about making sure that, you know, if you can challenge the convention when you're doing things like marketing services and things like that. Manage the client's expectation. So if they turn around and say, I really want this turned around quickly, don't be afraid to say, look, it's going to take this amount of time to do the job properly, and I'd rather be in that situation than have you keep on coming back to me and having to change things after we've done the main body of the work. It's inefficient for you as a client, it's inefficient for me as a business person. So it is about managing expectation, and, you know, if in doubt, get it in writing, put it in writing, and have a contract, rather than say, yes, I think we can do that, put the phone down, and then panic. Which brings me on to the teacups, I suppose, which was the old keep calm and carry on, or the one that I found when clearing out my father's house a couple of years ago, which was now panic and freak out.
So, Laurie, you're advising your clients to freak out and panic?
No, I think one of the functions of a business consultant is, when they are freaking out and panicking, is just to say, whoa, let's step back from this, let's have a cup of coffee, let's chat it through and see what it really means and how we can help you. I remember a few years ago I was doing some work for an estate agent in the middle of Harlesden, and she got to her shop one day and somebody had splashed black paint all over her windows, and she felt very threatened and vulnerable, and I said, I'll be with you in 3/4 of an hour. And we went down, and by the time I got there, the neighbourhood clients were helping her clean the windows. They told her to go and have a cup of coffee with me. We went to have a cup of coffee, and we thought, worst case scenario, it was jealous competitors, so she must be great at what she's doing, so let's carry on doing it. And at worst case scenario, which was probably the truth, it was a couple of louts who were just walking past with some black paint and decided, purely at random, to sling it at her window. So no, we didn't panic. We took a step back, we examined it. It's often good to do that with a trusted friend or critical friend or mentor or consultant, and just step back and look at what's the worst case scenario, and what steps can we put in place to maybe prevent it happening again, and if it does it really matter anyway?
Yeah, so she was happy in the end, and obviously you were able to bring her around with that kind of, being able to give her a little bit of distance and perspective on it. And that's the same with any task, isn't it?
Absolutely, and I think sometimes what we miss when we're working in our own business is taking a little bit of quality time out to reflect. And I think if you maybe get a discipline of doing it with your consultant or mentor, maybe an hour a week, a half day, a couple of hours a month, it gives you time to work on the business and not in the business, because, you know, when you're working day to day in your business and you're up to your neck in alligators, you forget about how to get out of the pond full of alligators, and you just try and stay alive. And I think what's really important is to try and work with some colleagues. It could be a peer group. You know, you swap time with somebody who you respect. You don't necessarily have to pay time and money for it, but it's probably something you don't want to talk to your mum and dad about. You don't want to talk to your brother or your husband and wife about. You need to have this sort of critical business friend on your side who's not afraid to tell you the truth, to actually just help you through that process and to give you a bit of time to work on your business. And as I say, not in the business, and I think that's a great way to drive a business forwards.
Jem, how do you slay your alligators?
I think it's important when you're making a list, a to-do list, to start with those jobs that you're least looking forward to. That's what I try to do, is get those jobs out of the way, and then everything, the rest of the day actually seems a whole lot easier. So I think there's a book called Eat That Frog, which covers the subject beautifully. But it's about scheduling those tasks that you're least looking forward to, get those out of the way, and enjoy the rest of the day.
I think that's a very good comment. I mean, if you have a problem or someone's complained about the quality of service or something like that, it's better to get onto it and get it fixed and get a solution in place rather than allowing it to fester. And that's just basically good business practice. Don't allow people to start sort of spreading bad or nasty comments about you in social media. Especially if it's something that you could probably get sorted out very quickly on a one-on-one conversation. So, as I said earlier on, be proactive about managing issues. And as Jem said, yes, take on and first those things that you think are going to be the most difficult to resolve, and get them out of the way, because the rest of it should be more fun.
Jem, sorry, were you trying to come back in there?
Yeah, just wanted to add a quick one to that, and that is that we all have things that we don't want to do, and I think we tend to bury our head in the sand. It's much easier to do that when we work on our own, and sometimes it's useful to have somebody else to sound off against in that respect. So I would just encourage people not to bury their head in the sand, not to put off until tomorrow those things that they could get out of the way today. Those tend to be the most stressful things, the things that we least enjoy doing, the things that we know are going to perhaps create some conflict in our lives. So don't hide behind being alone in our little offices. Get out there and don't be afraid to stand up to those demons and put them behind you as quickly as possible.
Okay. Well, I mean, a lot of these issues are created by time pressures. All these constant demands are placed by the technology, be it mobile phones, emails, conference calls. What we're doing here in some ways with group hangouts and visual meetings, online meetings, and stuff like that. But technology can help, can't it, Catherine?
Yes. Oh, yes, absolutely. Well, I mean, for instance, I was doing a really difficult job before Christmas. Anybody that knew me before Christmas could probably see how grey I was going and how quickly I was going grey. But I took on this job, and it was about 3 months late in getting to me, which was nobody's fault but the customer. And I was the end of the chain. I was helping somebody out because it was too much for her to handle. So this very complicated job landed on my desk. I knew it was going to be all-consuming. I cleared the decks before it came in. But even when it was here, it was, I was pulling my hair out. But with the aid of technology, I could actually have the lady who had given me the job in a little corner of my screen at various points explain to me what to do, and I obviously had pages open, and the technology really came into its own rather than actually have to waste time with meetings and getting across town and all the rest of it to do everything face to face. Technology is a wonderful thing when it suits the purpose that you really need it for. As I say, it was a very technical job that took about 3 hours to explain and 10 pages of notes, but it had a finite period of time. So whilst it was a bit of a scary prospect, and I very nearly said no to this one, particularly the longer time went on, I thought, this isn't coming in before Christmas. The deadline was Christmas. And to have just 2 weeks to do this thing rather than 2 months was a bit of a daunting prospect. So yes, there was days and nights. But at the end of the day, with a lot of toing and froing, I grasped the concept eventually. It was something new to me. It was something I hadn't done before. But actually, it was incredibly rewarding when it did take off. But as I say, with the aid of things like Google Plus, you can have a face-to-face conversation with somebody on the screen. You can fire off your messages, either email, Twitter, or Facebook, or whatever, and obviously sending files to and fro. The technology that's at our fingertips at the moment really comes into its own.
Sometimes it's good to have 2 screens. I remember working with one client, and they were down in Dorset, and I'm up in Watford, and what they wanted to do was to update their LinkedIn profiles and make them more marketing savvy. And so on one computer, I was if you like, training or instructing or helping the client to put together their LinkedIn profiles. And on the other one, they were actually doing it themselves, and we could see it in real time. So there we were doing hand-to-hand training 100 miles apart from each other, just using technology. And whether that be round the corner 100 miles away, or I did some sales training in 3 continents at once recently, in Middle East, in Manchester and Florida, simultaneously just using technology today and saving that time and effort on travel, and also it's environmentally friendly and a lot less stressful. So technology sometimes adds to stress, but it can other times take it away, and I think it's very vital to do that. And maybe a job that wouldn't have been economical viable, just writing a couple of LinkedIn profiles and me dragging down to Dorset for a day, probably not, but to spend a couple of hours doing it online using technology is the way forwards.
Absolutely. When you mentioned about LinkedIn profiles, I mean, that's another incredibly good use of technology, certainly in the business world and globally. So it doesn't matter where you are. Anybody can look at a company profile or an individual profile on LinkedIn and actually see a career history, references, and the things that the person has achieved, both job-wise and career-wise. And it's a really good reference, and it sort of helps to build a bit of trust if you can see what someone's done. So things like LinkedIn, actually, I think in the modern business world have really come into their own.
But it's not just the individual, is it, Jonathan? I mean, I know you've got good connections with various LinkedIn experts who also talk about using it for your small business.
Yeah, I mean, I think, by and large, the group of people we've got here today talking are one-man bands. But remember, if you've got employees, if you've got staff, use them, delegate responsibility to them, cultivate them, build them, and sort of think about things like how can we improve the workplace, how can we improve the experience for themselves, and think about your well-being, think about their well-being. There's a lady called Rosie Miller who has a website, I think it's called rosiefutures.co.uk, and she does a well-being course at the High Wycombe, the new Thames Valley University, is it, in High Wycombe, and she's starting a new course in February. Consider going and having, spending some time doing something like that. It will teach you about how to manage your time, and it will also help teach you about how to manage stress and the stress that's delivered for you. So think about how you get around that. As I said before, proactively manage rather than just being a passenger. Spend more time thinking and planning and less time firefighting.
Okay, Jen, you would agree with that, wouldn't you? That I presume that it's that kind of management of not only time but also the technology and of the stress, and how you manage those 3 things together is the thing that's going to make you more productive, perhaps for slightly less effort or for less effort.
Yeah, and they are inexorably linked. It's a kind of a universal triangle that links all of those things together, and one will automatically affect the other. On the subject of meetings, I'm a great believer in shorter meetings, and I think if you can set an agenda with some timescales and set a limit on the amount of time for a meeting, then often that pays dividends. I think we've all been in meetings that drag on far too long, and actually setting a limit on the amount of time available for that meeting often means that the meeting will extend to a shorter period. So whilst you could happily sit there and discuss matters for half a day, if you set a 45-minute limit on the amount of time that you're prepared to set aside for that meeting, then you can usually achieve the same in that shorter time period. So just being more focused and more focused on generating an outcome is often a key to being more productive and therefore less stressful.
Yep. Okay. That's great. Before we move on to our tip of the week for this one on productivity, I'd just like to remind people that this is Marketing Gem. You can contact us at the Marketing Gem on Twitter, where you can let us know what you think of the show, or if you want subjects discussed, then please do. Or and at the end of the show, all our individual Twitter addresses are up there, so if you want to speak to any one of us individually, you can. We're always welcome to take your ideas on board and to discuss them with you and everything. Each week I do ask the panel to give their tip on the subject we've just been talking about. So, Laurie, what's your tip for what would be, if someone said to me, give me one thing for product that's going to improve my productivity, what would your tip be?
Know when not to do it yourself, even with technology, because with technology we can all design a website, we can all design a leaflet, but sometimes if you do something DIY, it looks DIY, do it yourself, and really doesn't portray the professionalism of you and your business. And the chances are it won't be so good, it'll take 10 times longer, and you should have spent that time actually working, sticking at the knitting, doing what you're good at doing, and paying a professional to design that logo, help you produce that LinkedIn profile, design the leaflet, go through the website, because using technology in that way sometimes can be self-defeating. You know, 30 years ago, if you wanted a leaflet designing, you had to go to the graphic designer who would do it all and cut bits out and paste bits on a board and so on and so forth. Today you can do it on your screen, but the result can actually be a disaster and detrimental to you and your business.
Okay. Well, let's go to a graphic designer then for her take on what her one tip would be.
Yes, always use a graphic designer. Yes, that's self-centered. I would say, with regards to, I mean, you know that I've spoken a lot on social media. I would say I saw a quote in the Guardian today, which said that a recent study by the Internet Advertising Bureau UK found that nearly 80% of consumers would be more inclined to buy more often in the future because of a brand's presence on social media. Now, I would say, obviously, social media, business media isn't for everyone, but if it's something new to you, at least have a look at it. See if it's something you can fit into your day, your week. See if it's something that can be suited to the business that you're running. Research social and business media. See what's out there. If it's something new to you, perhaps discover what it's all about. Look at some overviews of all the different platforms that there are out there. Read some reviews from people who use them. See what types of business use different types of social media. There really is a wealth of them to choose from. And then decide what to focus on. Whether it can be something you can plan into your day, and I say to make your business more productive, but also to interact with people, whether it's on a customer level, people generally, not just about business, but for inspiration and for motivation as well. There's a wealth of knowledge and information to be shared out there. Sometimes it can be just posing a simple question: does anybody know how to get into this, or does anybody know how to do this in Illustrator? You know, the answer's out there, and it's all to do with this interaction with people all around the world. So embrace.
Jen, what would your tip be?
I'd like to offer two marketing gems, if I may.
You may.
One of them is to eliminate wastage, and probably the best way to do that is to actually just, on any particular day, make a note of exactly how you spend your time. I think a lot of people would be horrified at how much time they actually waste on non-productive things, but it certainly does help you to eliminate those things that are taking up your time unnecessarily. But the other thing I'd like to share with you is some legitimately life-improving New Year's resolutions you can steal from dogs. And I think these are really important. And so I'll just give you a selection of them. One, eat more stuff that makes you feel good. Poop frequently. Greet everything enthusiastically. Smell things that look interesting. Be less scared of telephones and strangers. Forget what... sorry. No, I won't read that one. Be nice to nice people, fart without shame, and worry less about things you can't or play with. So I think if we all adopt that, we'll all be much happier and much more productive.
Woof.
Jonathan, will you be taking on board any of that advice?
Well, I mean, certainly on the dog analogy, if you've got a task that you're trying to sort out because perhaps you haven't done it before or you loathe doing it or whatever, don't be afraid to sort of get halfway through it and then step away from it and go for a walk, go and have a pint, do whatever helps you chill out. That's the dog analogy, is go and have a walk. Not necessarily sniff around the bottom of trees or other people's crutches. We won't go any further with that. But take time out, and so you can think about it without having necessarily pressure. If you've got particular tasks that need to be done and you don't want to, sort of don't try and do everything in one go. Don't do more than say 80 minutes concentrated on one task. So if you've got to get something done by a certain deadline, when you've got to the point where you really are fatigued, walk away from it, take a break, in whichever way is best for you, and then come back to it, or come back to it the following day. But when you're planning what to do into the future, and someone asks you to do something, make sure you've allowed enough time to get it done, rather than waiting until the deadline and then desperately trying to rush it, because that won't help you in any way. As a longer term thing, I would say read around subjects that are close to your area of best practice in business. So if you're doing marketing, read some background marketing type textbooks. Take time to do that out, even if you do it in the evening or wherever. Take time out and where you can be not disturbed. So occasionally switch off your mobile phone, switch off the email facilities, leave the tablet away and the computer away, and just have some downtime where you can relax and think. Just trying to think of any other things that I found useful over the time. I mean, I used to make sure that if I was working in my office in London at one stage, at lunchtime, if I wasn't engaged in a business lunch or whatever, I'd go for a walk along the side of the Thames or through a park. Or my favourite really was a visit to Tate Modern and just wander around and look at things and go, that's bloody clever. The exploding shed was one of my favourites, where all the bits of the shed were hung on vertical wires, and you just sort of looked at it and thought, whoever came up with that as a concept, brilliant. Must have taken hours to construct, the quality of it, all the rest of it. But it was something that was completely different from what I would normally be doing or thinking about. So don't be afraid of doing stuff, even though you're getting towards a deadline. But take time to rest and take time to sort of care for yourself. And most of all, I suppose, as a tip of the year, is it should be more than just about money. So enjoy it. Make things fun. Make it actually quite entertaining to do what you do. And it would probably be easier to be enthusiastic and, if you like, proactive than if you just sort of go, oh God, I've got to do this because I've got to pay the bills at the end of the month.
Okay, great. Well, my tip of the week and tip of the month would be that is to make a list of, to do your to-do list the night before you actually do the work, and also that in the morning, don't come in and sit down and answer your emails first of all. Set aside to do it, and it kind of builds on what the point's been made by several of you, and that's build upon do the things that you don't want to do first, and then go to your emails, because that way you'll find that you'll get the things you don't want to do done and out of the way, so you can enjoy the rest of the day, which is, I think, I'm almost paraphrasing or quoting Jem there. So that would be my tip. Just before we go, though, I would like to mention that Link for Growth, who sponsor this show, have their first national conference on Friday. And there's going to be several events taking place on the national YouTube channel from 10 a.m. We'll be live streaming of the conference throughout the day, and between 3 and 4 we'll be having a review of the conference, which will be hosted by myself and Catherine, and one or two others will be appearing on it, reviewing what's happening during the day. So hopefully that will be of interest. The links and everything for that show will be posted on the national TV channel and the YouTube site after today's show. So on that note, I'd like to say thank you all to each and every one of you for coming on the show today, and invite you to say cheerio. Catherine.
Yes, thank you very much for having me on. Nice to see everybody again. Good luck with all these new resolutions. All you really need to do is get up, get dressed. Once you've done your workout, have your breakfast, make your to-do list, and then all the rest of the day will fall into place.
You make it sound so easy. Jonathan.
I was going to say, by the time you've done all of that, it's probably time to go back to bed. No, maybe that's a bit unfair. Yeah, thank you for being an audience. If you've got any ideas, suggestions, please get in touch with us. There's a whole list of sort of Twitter account addresses that appear on various people's banners on this service. Mine doesn't seem to work, so I think mine is MMA@J5DARBY. But any feedback would be valuable. It'll help us improve the program and hopefully make it more enjoyable for you guys.
I would just finish off with one more from the dog resolutions. It's just take care of your genitals. After that, everything else will take care of itself. Have a great week.
And Laurie?
Don't forget the Nike slogan, just do it, with a tick. So make yourself your list, as they said, just do it, tick it off, and evaluate it later and make sure it worked for you and it's helping you achieve those objectives for the year. So thank you very much, and bye for now.
Okay, bye-bye. And this has been the Marketing Gem, and this is a regular show that is broadcast each week. And as you can see here, all the email addresses of the contributors today, and also the Marketing Gem, and we would love to hear from you. And so until the next time, we say cheerio and bye-bye.